What's going on, YouTube? JT's Reborn here, and welcome back to another edition of After the Movie. I'm currently in, well, my house right now, and I just got done watching The Last Unicorn. This is a video as a special request for one Bigjackfilms, because he's like, Sean, you got to do an After the Movie on. I'm like, all right, okay, I'll talk about the movie. So yes, this is for you, Jack, and for those who want a really good in-depth review on this film, go check out his video. I'll leave a link in the description down below, because again, this is just my thoughts after seeing it, because I think I remember seeing it like some bits of it years ago. This is like my first time like really kind of sitting down and watching the movie all the way through. And overall consensus, I enjoyed it okay. I don't think it's a really truly 100% iconic classic. It's definitely an underrated animated film. This is done by Rankin Bass. It has Jeff Bridges, it has Mia Farrow, it has Alan Arkin, and then of course Christopher Lee as the King, who's easily the best voice actor within the movie. This is an interesting movie. So the story centers around Mia Farrow, who plays the last unicorn, if you will, because all the unicorns have been kind of chased out of this mythical forest and by this evil king, if you will, who's just crazy and just wants to be happy. Like whatever it is, like he does things just to make himself kind of happy, if you will. He's kind of a weird guy. And so like the last unicorn, if you will, has to go and on this journey to find the other unicorns because again, she's the last one. She comes across a magician named Schmendrick. I think that's how I pronounce his name. And then at one point she gets turned into a human. And then you have Jeff Bridges' character who falls in love with her in her human form, and all sorts of other things kind of go on. So that's the basic gist of the story this time around. This is done by Rankin Bass, so the animation isn't, like, it's pretty far removed from Disney quality animation at the time. This came out in, I think, 1982. So think along the lines of those Hobbit animated films you've seen. Rather cheap looking animation. Some of it kind of reminded me a bit of, what was it? The Star Wars Holiday Special. But again, this is early 1980s animation style. It's not the Disney style that, you know, would be popular around the time, if you will. It's a different style. So I have to look at it that perspective and from the time period for which this thing came out. So it's not going to look as polished as stuff today or things that would come out a few years down the road. So you have to go into it with that perspective. That said, there is a nice little musical score there. You have America, I think, doing some of the music. And some of the animation, like the style is unique, and I like some of it. But then other times where I think with a bit stronger style and a little bit more money thrown into it, this thing could have like really kind of popped off the page a little bit more. Because like I said, this is an animation style which I don't get all that into for a lot of these like 80s animated films in this vein. And like what else doesn't like? And then there's some other things in this movie that don't quite work so well. And one other observation I should point out beforehand is this is a G-rated movie. But my God, were the animators horny when they were making this thing? Like, Jesus, like Alan Arkin's character, if you will, like at one point he brings a tree to life and it like he starts motorboating it, which is just really kind of weird and off-putting. And I'm like, this is rated G. No, this is 80s rated G. Then of course you have other animals with, you know, very accentuated female body parts, if you will. Even when the unicorn turns human, she of course is naked, and they have no problem showcasing that in a G-rated movie, mind you. So it got a kick out of me. And again, there's some like stuff that happens. I'm like, this would definitely not get a G rating by today's standards. So I got a little bit of a laugh, a little bit of a kick out of that, but also a bit of a what the hell is going on here with this thing. Other things don't quite work is the relationship between Jeff Bridges and Mia Farrow's character, the unicorn that gets turned into a human. I thought all those scenes between the two of them felt rather flat. And it just, the romance just felt so underwhelming and underdeveloped. It's like, he's like, I love her, I'm trying to court her. And even when she turns into a unicorn, he's like, I don't care, I still love her. I'm like, now, what would have been a really weird ending is if he still got with her when she was in her unicorn form. Like, it would have been like one of those Shrek things where it was like Donkey and Dragon, where they're just like, how the heck does the mechanics of that work? Now, if they went through with that one, I would have been like, okay, this is very batshit crazy, but I'm like, okay, if he loves her, then he loves her, I guess. So you got that going on. Alan Arkin, rest in peace, by the way. I know he just passed away recently. His performance in this film, it feels rather flat, though. It feels like he's just kind of coming in to read lines and doesn't really put the effort forth and terms of the inflections of his voice and when he's kind of delivering. It just seems like somebody who's just kind of like reading the lines and never really felt like the character at hand. Whereas somebody like Christopher Lee, truly one of the greatest actors of all time, really kind of gives it his all. Even like I was looking, did some minor research stuff where like he would actually have the book there with him, and apparently he would do the dub in German as well. So yeah, like Christopher Lee, like everything the man touched, like I'm not sure. I heard a quote. I don't know if this is an accurate quote or not. So if anybody knows for sure, just let me know. But with Christopher Lee, it's like I think one of his sayings was, "It's okay to be in bad movies, but it's never okay to be bad in them." And it doesn't matter what role Christopher Lee is in, he's still going to give it his all, no matter what, and try and like get the best out of the film itself. And like I said, Christopher Lee is really good as the evil king in this thing. And there's some haunting images in here, which I liked for that kind of like more gritty, darker 80s kid style. I just think the relationship between Prince Lear, I think it's pronounced it, like Jeff Bridges' character, and Lady Amalthea, or the Last Unicorn, if you will, those parts just kind of fell flat. You do get to see her kind of lose a little bit of like kind of forget who she was until she's kind of reminded of like being in the human form or longer. But again, she's got to try and save the unicorns, and ultimately the storyline wraps itself up in a bit of a neat bow. I will say too that even the romantic half doesn't really start. This is only an hour and a half movie. Like that portion doesn't really start to take off until the halfway point of the movie is when they meet. It almost feels like there's a couple of different it's like the three acts feel like three almost different movies at times. Like the first act is her, and then the magician character, Alan Arkin's character, and like that's something for about like a half hour, 40 minutes, and then all of a sudden she's with Jeff Bridges' character, and then they have kind of a little side detour where they go into the woods at one point. It feels like I said, like there was a couple different things. You probably would have been better if it was focused on like one thing, because the movie does feel like at times it takes a bit of a detour and can certainly drag at points in time throughout the film. But as something that's came out in 1982, doesn't necessarily not the hugest of budgets, different animation style with the whole Rankin Bass era thing. It does feel very distinct and different than a lot of things that come out today. So I think that kind of gave it a kind of going back and kind of watching something like this from that era was a neat little trip down memory lane, if you will, because I haven't for a lot of these animated movies at this time with this particular style, I haven't really watched something like that in quite a long time, so it felt a little bit fresh and kind of unique and a little bit different to me. I don't think it's one of the greatest animated films of all time, but I can see why a lot of people like it, and I think in some ways it is underrated because it's not one that too many people talk about all that much. So yeah, like I said, I don't think it's amazing or anything like that. It's not something I'm going to rush back to kind of rewatch or something like that. But I do think it's worth a watch if you're looking for something a little bit differently. I don't think it's going to be for everyone, but from what I saw, I did enjoy it overall. There's a few surprises for sure, particularly the fact that the animators were down so bad while they were animating this thing, and I'm like, yeah, this is an 80s G rating. It's definitely far removed from G today. I was really surprised when I saw because 80s PG, I know it's definitely not PG today, if you know what I mean. But looking at G-rated stuff and the stuff that's animated and that's showcased in this thing, I'm just wow. Yeah, that definitely wouldn't be a G-rated thing right now. So I'm surprised they were able to get that to slip past the animators at time, or slip past the rating system at time. But I guess in the 80s they just didn't care so much. So I got a chuckle out of that. But yeah, like I said, it was an interesting film to kind of watch. Oh, also there's some other characters who randomly pop up. I completely forgot. There's this weird butterfly character that shows up at the very beginning of the movie. He has no real impact on the plot. He just kind of tells the Last Unicorn something, and he just constantly sings different things, comes across as a real sort of creeper, he wants to hook up with the unicorn, and I'm this is getting kind of weird. So it definitely is a little strange at times, and I think not all the plot lines are jumbled together quite so well, or all the characters feel kind of they don't really have much of a role, and even the climax did feel a little underwhelming at times. But again, it's a harmless film. for the most part. Not an amazing film, but like I liked it enough, and I can see it being a bit of an underrated kind of hidden gem that a lot of kids who probably grew up watching it will love it. And I think some people will come away pretty satisfied with what they saw if they go in with, lower expectations, if you will, and just want to see something a little bit different, something from a past era that doesn't really get talked about so much. But yeah, so my thoughts seem kind of all over the place after seeing this thing. But again, like I said, I want to just kind of be upfront, honest, and open about what I thought of the film. I think some things worked. Like I said, Christopher Lee, that man is one of my favorite actors. He's one of the greatest of all time. He's good in it. I thought the lead character was good. Like in her human and in her unicorn form, I thought, like I said, they did a nice job kind of capturing, like they made the character look like very like majestic, if you will, kind of otherworldly at times. But so, like I said, I like all the stuff with her. I just felt like Jeff Bridges' character and like that romantic aspect to the film felt really flat, underdeveloped. I never really bought their relationship at all. And then Alan Arkin, rest in peace, by the way. Like his performance felt kind of flat a little bit. But like I say, Christopher Lee and Mia Farrow, I think they were good. And then some of the other supporting cast stands out just fine. Like there's this witch character kind of pops up earlier on in the film. She's like holding different things hostage. And again, going back into where I think the animators were down bad, they had this like weird vulture-like creature, but it also has like giant, like, boobs, if you will, that are just constantly hanging across the screen. I'm just like, okay, I got to bring this up. Think The Last Jedi when Luke's milking that weird alien thing, like, its titties are all popped up like that. So yeah, you definitely, like I said, the animators are down bad quite a bit during this thing, and you can certainly tell that. But so it gets into some strange territory in that regards. But yeah, so I think that's all I really have to say about this thing. A quick 12-minute random after the movie, because I like doing some of these throwback ones sometimes. Because it gives me a chance to see different types of films that I may have not necessarily seen before, or maybe it's been so long that I don't remember. I think I'd seen this one years ago, or at least seen some bits of it, but it was fun to at least like check it out and just say, hey, look, I saw this movie that came out in the 80s. It's an animated film that nobody really talks about all that much. So yeah, there you go. But anyways, this one is for you, Big Jack Films. You want to hear me give my thoughts on the movie? There you go. A little bit scattershot because, again, this is after the movie. I just got done watching it. Still trying to process what I just saw. So, yeah, go ahead and check out his video. Like I said, he did a big in-depth thing about it. I think it was like last year it came out or whatever. And then, like I said, what did you think of The Last Unicorn? Do you think it's an underrated masterpiece? Is it one of your favorite 80s films? Or is it one that just feels kind of forgettable to you? Like I said, I'm in the vein that I'm giving it a positive recommendation. And I can see it being slightly like a bit of an underrated, kind of hidden like gem, if you will. Not like an amazing one, like that I'm just gonna like want to go back and rewatch. But like I said, I enjoyed it enough. So yeah, let me know what you thought of it in the comment section down below. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, all that other fun stuff. I think I'll be back again, maybe even tomorrow, or, well, I mean, whenever this thing goes up, it'll be around midnight. It's like Saturday at the time I'm recording this thing, so we'll see how it all turns out. But yeah, this is a fun one to do. So anyways, that's all I have to say. As always, take care now. Bye-bye then, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.